I'll resume. Well, good morning again, everybody. Welcome to the Team Excellence call. This is Lynn Gardner. If I didn't get a chance to say good morning to you before the call, good morning. I'm calling in from beautiful Virginia. It's a beautiful day. We've got a little bit of overcast things going on and probably about 80 degrees, and it's been a great morning on the front porch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to follow me on Facebook. And, we're hearing about all the different weather around the country, and it's just like I stop whining. If I hear 116 degrees anywhere besides the oven, I'm not going to complain about Virginia anymore. I'm happy with where I am. But it's a beautiful day. It's an exciting time, isn't it? We're gearing up for global. We're 40-some days away from global, and I am so excited to meet some of you that I feel like I know now on this phone. It's going to be a very exciting time. Really, really charged up for that. If for some reason, you haven't made plans to attend, you really need to do whatever you can do to get there. And I know that sounds lame, and I never, you guys hear my story as time goes on. I understand what broke is and poverty is, okay? So I don't mean to sound like it's, what's the big deal, go to Vegas for a few days, but I do know this also. I know that where there's a will, there's a way. So there's anything in your power. If you've not made arrangements to go, there's still tickets out there at the original price, and there's a way to go, even if we have to all pile into rooms and share rooms. So I hope that you'll do that. One more announcement. I just want to be sure that you know that we're closing out the Tamia Leadership Call. It's been a phenomenal call. If you've never tuned in at all in this series, it takes place at 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday night. If you haven't tuned in yet at all, you're not lost, okay, because each week has its own, theme. But it's really going to be a great theme this Tuesday night. So it's a law of magnetism, and it's really about, controlling your thoughts and drawing those things into your life, good things, and not allowing bad thoughts to dictate your future. So if you haven't been on there yet, you don't want to miss that one. It's going to be a really, really great call. Well, you guys know that I chase all kinds of rabbits. I do everything from the Kentucky Derby theme, to what makes it rain. But today I just kind of want to get down to some basics, because I think in our business, sometimes we take way too much for granted. We see people that are just chomping, they want to build a business, and we try to give them, foundational things, and we plug them into calls and try to keep them motivated and everything. But the bottom line is a lot of people come to the business that really have never done a business. For me, this industry is new to me, and boy, have I had some growing pains to go through, But being in business for myself is not new to me. I've been, 25 years or so working for myself, and so I have some of these things that I also take for granted, and I wanted to share some of them with you, So we have people, again, from all kinds of walks of life. I personally have people that I work with that, spent 20 years or so in corporate America and, got laid off. They were never able to reposition into corporate America, and so they found their way to this business. But, for people, they may be very accomplished, seasoned professionals and really, really sharp people. But you know what? If they've never run their own business, then they may not really know some of the small steps that we can take to be successful and foundational things to set up our business, Somebody in that world, if you worked for somebody else, or perhaps you still do, the rules of the game are given to you. You really don't have to think a whole lot about the general rules of the game for success. You're told when to show up, and you're pretty much told, what the dress code is, and you know what you're supposed to do while you're there. You know what's expected of you, the steps that you have to go through. You're told when you can go home. You're told how much you'll get paid. You're even told precisely what day that check will show up. But you've never really had to integrate yourself or your independence, if you will, into that world. You live by the rules of the game, and so you don't know how to position it for yourself. Some people have come to us after raising kids for years. The hardest job in the world is to be a stay-at-home mom. I got to tell you, I always wanted to have the privilege, and it's a hard job, and it's the most rewarding job, but the hardest job you'll ever do. And although we look at busy moms, I had 4 kids of my own. I've been telling you what, I was running 24/7 from sun up to midnight, and it was crazy, And although you have to accomplish an awful lot if you pull that off well, really, in many ways, the rules of the game are already set up for you too, If you're a mom, you know that you have to, get kids out of bed at a certain time of the morning. They got to get up. So, it's not flexible. They have to get up at a certain time. You have to go back to that dress code, are they dressed appropriately? You got to be sure they had something to eat, and do they have their homework and their backpack? And then, they're told what time to be there. So although you run around like a maniac keeping the threads of your family together, a lot of those rules are made up for you too. So you don't necessarily, maybe you don't have the experience to set up your schedule or understand some of those Small steps that make a really, really big difference. And then some people come to us, young people, and gosh, it's exciting. And then I hear about these kids that aren't even old enough to get a check yet, and they're out there making this old woman feel inferior. They're at it running with that energy, and they're so fearless, but they have no foundation at all. In fact, some of the young people that I deal with, is dealing with basic social skills, just trying to get them to a place where they're ready to go belly to belly, because you can't do everything on the internet with our business. And they may have lived by the rules of the game, in school, but they really have no foundation whatsoever. They're like a clean slate. So there's so much that they can learn. So my point is, don't take it for granted, the people that come to you in our world, the people as they're added into your organization, that come into your life, they're coming from all different kinds of walks of life. And it's not enough to just say, hey, man, just get on board. It's not enough to say, hey, just go out the door and talk to people. Sometimes it takes some foundational things, that would set your pattern up for success. I am so blessed that years and years ago, I was actually still in corporate America. I was young, and I was really just so aggressive and so ambitious and really climbing a ladder. And this mentor came alongside me. You've heard about this person before. And the tips that this person gave me have just, followed me through to where I am today. Some tips that maybe people don't think about. And one of the things that he instilled in me was, you never, ever leave the office for the day until you've set up your next day. Because the whole point is to hit the ground running. Now, if that's important in corporate life, imagine how important it is when you're working for yourself. You hit the ground running. You get up in the morning and act like you're going to work. You don't have to get in the car, and you don't have to chase the rat race to be acting like you're in business and like you're getting to work. I remember on a call or a training, I can't recall which one, but Cynthia Brigante was saying, when you get up in the morning, get dressed for work. Get ready for work. It's so tempting to say, I'm just going to be in my sweats today, put my hair up. But the bottom line is, you've got to be ready not only if somebody calls and says, hey, Lynn, I'm finally ready to buy. Can you meet me in 30 minutes? I need to be ready to go out that door. It can't be give me a couple hours to get, to look like a human being. I've got to be ready to go out the door. But you know what else it does? It prepares you to think like you're working. If you're just kind of lazing around in your sweats and putting a load of laundry in and get another cup of coffee and pick up the phone, you're not really in that mindset, like the work mode. So I thought that was really valuable for her to tell us that when you get up in the morning, get ready for work. Now, you don't have to necessarily be uncomfortably ready for work. You can be comfortable, but you need the whole idea being that you need to feel like you're working, act like you're working, and you need to be ready to get out the door and meet somebody that might be ready to move. You can't say, well, I'm just hanging out in my sweats and I'm not ready, But what we do with the last part of the day, and frankly for me in every walk of my life, thanks to that mentor, I plan and I look at the day that I'm just leaving behind and the day that I'm about to face, and I look at it with clarity, and I make some steps that I want to share with you today, or take some steps that I want to share with you today, because what you do at the end of your day is vitally important to that next day. Well, one thing that we do is pretty simple. We have, successful people always, line their day up. They always have a list, okay? And it's not enough to do a list of, I'm going to do 10 demos this week. You have a real detailed list of things to do. There's a couple reasons for that. And you might say, well, I drink Conga and take Ucon, I don't forget anything. I don't need a list. You sure do need a list, because even if you don't forget anything, that list is very convicting. When you come to the end of the day, that's the time to look at the list of the day and say, how did I measure up today? And when you look at a list and have 20 things on it, and you've got 2.5 things done, it's going to kick your tail in gear for the next day. You've got to be moving a little stronger than that, right? But, you've got to have that to-do list. You've got to, what we do with that is we are able to weigh out our accomplishments. Because you know what? Successful people, if you desire to be successful in this business, you really always have to be constantly taking a realistic view of how you're doing. Nobody else is going to tell you that. You're not working for somebody else. Nobody's going to say it's review time, performance review time, and I'm going to measure your money on that. Nobody else is going to do that. You've got to do that for yourself. So you've got to weigh out realistically, how am I doing? And successful people working for themselves, they don't keep their head in the sand. They don't lie to themselves and say, I'm doing really well. And they want to see, how can I be better? So they don't have their head in the sand. They are what I like to refer to as perpetual reality checkers. Reality ain't fun, okay? It's not fun personally, and it's not fun professionally. But if we want to be better in either area of our lives, we've got to be realistic. And we've got to not be afraid to face shortcomings, because that's how we fix them. So that list is imperative. If you don't have a list, you got to have a list. You got to be working with the list, Another thing that we do is get organized. If you know that you have a demo tomorrow morning, you need to get everything ready the night before. In fact, on that line, it's a good idea to have a list, a checklist, if you will, for a demo. If you do I call it a mobile demo, but if you go out the door to do a demo, you should have a checklist. You never find yourself, oh man, here I am with no pH drops. Oh man, here I am with no 11.5. You need to have a checklist so they're constantly ready. And the time to do that is not tomorrow morning. Because you know what happens? Is things get in the way. And then you're scattered around, you're running around, you try to throw things in a bag, you forget what's put in the bag. No, it's time the night before to take a look at that and to get all those projects in line. In real estate, you hear me talk about that a lot. And I'm sure there are people on the phone that have had that journey. Maybe you're still in that journey. And you could attest to the fact that you never leave the house without a couple things. You never leave without business cards. You never leave without a calculator. You never leave without a listing agreement or two. And you never leave without a couple contracts, ever, because you need to be prepared to do what you got to do. So we have to be sure that when we leave the house, we have, order forms. We have everything that we need. Return policies. We have everything that we need. So if you get blessed today and you're able to write up an order, you don't want to ever say, let me go back to the office. Well, give me a little bit more time. Sorry, I'm struggling with my voice today. And so you never want to lose an opportunity because you weren't prepared. So the time to get organized is the day before. That's the time to take a realistic look at it. Say, what am I going to need tomorrow? Let me get ready for tomorrow. You know what else that does? When you wake up in the morning, you're excited. You're not scrambling around. You're excited. You're ready. You're ready to go do your thing. And so, that's one of the things that we want to do is to write that list. We also want to reflect on the day. So again, I go back to what did I accomplish? What kind of day was it? Was it a good day? Was it a challenging day? Why was it a challenging day? You want to evaluate that so that when you look at the very next day, you're going to look at it with a different set of eyes. We also prioritize our items. It's one thing to make a list and to have a million things on that list. It's another thing to learn to prioritize. Now, for me, sometimes I know I'm somewhat offensive to the team because sometimes I'll just bark out, is that going to make you money? I'll tell you about all these things that they've got going on. I'm saying, wait a minute, is that going to make you money? I'm not all about money, guys, but I am in business. So we do have to prioritize the things that we're working on and kind of vet them and put them in the right order. What's really going to make us the money? What's really going to lead to productivity? And what's just kind of like spending time? Successful people, working for yourself, you have to stay focused. That is one reason, of course, that we have the why, and that's one reason we have the vision board. But, we got to be really careful, again, to keep our mind in business mode to stay focused. Sometimes maybe you have to remind yourself of what is it like when you work for corporate America. You're working for corporate America, you better stay focused or you're out of there. You're expected to do certain things within an efficient amount of time. You don't have the luxury to sit down with a cup of coffee and think about it for 2 hours. You don't have the time to say, well, I have a lot going on. I'm going to go get my nails done. You stay focused. And you have to do even more so when you work for yourself. So you have to be careful of how are you spending your time, and is it focused time? And yes, you do have to look at it and say, is this leading to my business being a better business? Is it leading to money? Is it leading to growth? You go to an event, you're obviously not making money, but you are in the long term because you're leading to growth. So, you have to stay focused. And again, you have to determine the night before, what's the primary goal for tomorrow? You can't, in other words, you just can't look at that list and go each item by item. They have to be put in the right order of priority. So as you're closing out your day and looking at tomorrow, you need to look at what are the primary goals of tomorrow? What are the things that if I don't accomplish, I have not done well for myself? And what kind of things that if I get busy accomplishing those priorities, will be okay if I do them the next day or the next day. You have to learn how to prioritize that. You just don't go, a line item by line item by line item by line item. You just can't do it that way. And again, successful people fine-tune their schedules. Again, if you were being paid by corporate America and you went out on an appointment, you don't dilly-dally around, okay? You fine-tune your schedule and you pretty much know, how much time it's going to take to do this. You plan everything from how long it'll take me to get there and how long the meeting's going to be. And you learn how to bring closure to things so that you can move on to the next thing. Again, you don't have the monkey on your back, guys. You don't have a boss. So you're not saying, well, this meeting's taking too long. The boss is going to be upset with me. You don't have anybody gauging you. So you've got to learn to gauge yourself. And so you fine-tune that schedule. successful people never leave anything or anybody hanging. And if there's ever a time to really look at that, it's at the end of your day. You know, did I overlook somebody? did I forget to make that return phone call? Did I forget that I was going to, offer a water share to that person? Did they never leave anything hanging? And the best time to look at that is not tomorrow when you're distracted with the newness of a new day. It's as you're evaluating what you accomplished or didn't accomplish today. Successful people never leave people hanging no matter what. And, that goes along the lines, too, of the, working to the follow-up. When you say you're going to follow up, and you don't follow up, not only are you, thwarting your own success, but you're not doing what you said you're going to do. You've got to learn to never leave anything hanging, no stone left unturned, and you've got to take care of that. You prioritize your business that way. Do you know that successful people working for themselves make it a point to extend gratitude? Listen, we don't always all have a great day. We're not always all in a great mood. Sometimes, we have our own challenges. I have things going on in my life you would have no clue about. But successful people make it a point to extend gratitude. So at the end of the day, you stop and you look at what can I be grateful for today? We make it a point to be grateful because that gratitude leads to success. It kind of sets us up in the right place for success. So make it a point to look at your day and say, what can I be grateful for? Because it is absolutely not just a natural course of things, and it's not a natural attitude necessarily every day unless you make a point to extend gratitude. And, that extension also means sometimes you have to speak it. It's not good enough sometimes to think, wow, Tally's really doing a great job. Tally, you're doing a great job. When people step up or they say something or they whatever action they're taking, that if we could just extend the gratitude, I so much appreciate you being here. I so appreciate you helping me with the demo setup. Whatever it is, we extend that gratitude. We speak it, and we speak it, we'll end up receiving it too. And successful people, especially working for yourself, leave everything on a positive note. Rest assured when I tell you this, when you work for somebody else and you have a day from where, and you drive home and you're kicking furniture and tanking down a beer, whatever you do when you're upset and you've had a miserable day, you can't afford yourself that luxury when you work for yourself. Because what you're mad at, are circumstances you can't control. You're mad that you were not treated fairly, or you lost a contract, or your boss reamed you out in front of everybody. You're reacting to something that you weren't in control of. But when you're in your own business and you're in charge of your own destiny there, you can't afford to have days like that. So successful people will always look to leave everything on a positive note. I've seen people that walked around like they lost their best friend because they put forth some effort, and the person that they were sharing water with or sharing the business with that didn't say no, just didn't do anything. And they walk around like they lost their best friend. But there's always a positive note because, in that situation, for instance, until they say, the answer is no, it's always going to be no, don't you ever call me again. Well, it's never really no. So you have to spin it on a positive note. That also goes along with making mistakes. I make mistakes every day. It's painful. But no matter how long I live, I'll always make mistakes. But it's really about looking at those mistakes and saying, how could I have done that better? If they didn't embrace what I said, if they didn't get on board with what I'm doing, is there something that I could have done better? You always want to end it on a positive note. You just don't say, hey, that jerk didn't buy a unit. That's not what we're about. You want to end it on a positive note because you know what? That builds you, and it also positions whatever you were dealing with to come back full circle one day. People might walk away and they might laugh at you, they might make fun of you, they might tell you to go get a job. There's all kinds of things that you hear. But you know what? Life changes. And you see people all the time reevaluating this a year or two later after they've heard it. But if you don't leave on a positive note, that's never going to happen. Or they'll look for somebody else to work with. You don't want that, right? And respectful people are respecters of time. Successful people are respecters of time. Our time and everybody else's time. If you tell somebody, I'd like to share something with you, and you have 30 minutes, you need to keep it 30 minutes. You don't need to be there 2 hours and 30 minutes later saying, wow, we had too much fun talking about football. That's not what you're there for. You need to be a respecter of the time. I know when I first started doing Monday night meetings at my house, the demo meetings, if you will, and, I was a trainer in my past, and so I'm very mindful of how much time I'm taking, and I'll work through it in my mind, kind of practice it, if you will, because to me it's very important when people took time out at the end of a busy day. Mondays are difficult days anyway, and then they showed up at my house. I wanted to be sure that they knew. I wanted to be sure that you knew if you brought somebody to my home what time that meeting was going to end, because, and I would always let them know I'm a respecter of your time. You'll be out of here at 8:30. And so it's important to respect people's time. You want your time respected, but you know what? If there's any respecting of time that you have to do more than anything else, it's your own. You don't have the luxury of just meandering through life and doing what you feel like doing in this business and doing only the fun parts of this business. You don't have the luxury of that. You've got to stay on board just as if, in fact, on steroids, the way you do when you're paid by somebody else. You're working for you and you're worth it. So, again, these are just some simple tips, and I can't say enough about my mentor who taught me before I ended the day what I would be doing the next day. When I wake up in the morning, there's no fog. I don't have to worry about, what am I going to be taking? What am I going to be doing? And you know what? I accomplished a lot in a day. And people sometimes are surprised by that. But the reason I am is because, thank you, God, He gave me a mentor that taught me how to position my work for the very next day so that every day I hit the ground running. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. Even we would go down to a point or to a level that all the phone calls I had to make, I'm assuming that you're making phone calls, and you need to be making them. But I know before I close the chapter of a day, if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, I know who I'm going to call. I have all of their information ready at my fingertips so that when I get the ground running, I hit the ground running. And so I hope that those tips, I hope there's something in there for you. And I do think that as leaders, we do take some things for granted. We get a little frustrated when people aren't moving ahead. They yap out their why and they seem excited, but they don't seem to be doing anything. And so we have talked about things like leaving the gate and what's the next step. But sometimes we ought to get way down to basics, to the foundational steps that lead you to success, that lead you to be a productive person in your business. Because you know what, guys, we have an amazing opportunity. And I can't say enough about how we are just now hitting momentum stage is what we have. So we need to be sure we're on the ball. We need to be sure we're taking the steps. And for all of you that don't have the foundational steps in place, I ask you to forgive us, because we all need to work with you sometimes a little bit closer in those areas. You might have the dream, you've got the why, you've got the passion, you've got the energy, and sometimes you've got to tweak a couple of things to get you organized and ready to go. So I hope these tips have helped you guys today. As usual, we've got to be constantly, really, if you're struggling with your why and you're struggling with having something that keeps you awake at night or makes you get out of bed right in the morning, please start with that, because that's what's going to propel you to even want to do any of the things I just told you about today. So keep your eye on the why. I'll see you guys at the top. I'll see you at Global, and I'll definitely see you next Thursday. You make it a great day now. Bye-bye.